5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Welcome to Quit Bleeping Around, a podcast dedicated to helping you achieve more in life. Here's your host, Christina Eanes.
Hey, superachievers. For this episode, I'm interviewing Marica Reynolds. Marcia, author of 4 books, is a leadership and executive coach who also trains leaders and coaches in coaching skills and emotional intelligence. Welcome, Marcia. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for asking.
Well, I love anything to do with emotional intelligence, neuroscience, perception, so I thought this was in perfect alignment with the podcast. But before we get to the topic of the day, can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I recognized when I was doing my doctoral research about strong, smart women was that we tend to have zigzag careers instead of climbing a ladder.
Yes.
And oftentimes we'll even make a huge shift. And, you know, I started actually, my first master's was in broadcasting, and I ended up pushing TV sets around in a psychiatric hospital.
Wow.
But my boss decided to get her doctorate and dump the whole training department in my lap. And I had to figure out how to do training. It's why I got a second master's. But it made me curious from that point years ago. What does it take for people to learn and grow? You know, because oftentimes people will go through my classes and they'd go, oh, this was awesome. And then they'd just go back to old behavior. And there's always that, oh, people don't change. Well, they do, but it's not as easy as we think. So from there, I went into the tech world, ran training departments with mostly engineers, which was interesting, trying to help them to communicate, to lead,
emote,
and to use their emotions, not hide them, you know, and to even know they were emotional people. So that was interesting. But it was when I decided it was time to go. I was actually told I hit the glass ceiling. And it was like, well, okay, I'll go find challenges elsewhere. And the day I left, somebody sent me a letter, a note, and said, read this article. And it was about this thing called coaching. This was 1995. And so I just automatically jumped. And like I usually do, I jumped before I looked down. And I signed up for a coaching school. And I remember watching somebody coach and going, wow, this is amazing. This is different than what I was learning on how to teach well. And it was really just the next year that Daniel Goleman came out with his book, Emotional Intelligence. And I said, this is so important. You know, the impact of emotions on our learning and our growing, or our hesitation and our fear. And so we don't take risks. And so I launched into learning about that. And it's what really inspired me to do my doctoral work. You know, what really goes on in the brain that helps us to learn and grow. And I'm still very curious and constantly learning. And that's why I keep writing, you know, but coaching was the right path for me. But really teaching, like, how do you help people understand their stories and how they get in their own way and what they need to do to override them. So, you know, it was a zigzag path that brought me here today, but I'm so grateful for, you know, the things that show up in my inbox and having the courage to take the risks, because it's always worked out. So,
oh, I love it. Now, you have an interesting origin story in relation to your journey with learning about emotions and helping others. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, you know, actually, even my choice of my career has always been around what can I do to help people to recognize their highest self and their greatest possibilities. And that's because somebody helped me to do that many, many years ago. So for reasons I'm not going to express here, because people often say, how'd you get into that? But I know, but I ended up on a how our paths kind of shift. And I had always done well in school and things were going well, but then something happened and I was thrown into a different group of kids and ended up doing a lot of drugs and deepened that journey into high school and it was difficult for me to find a way out. So I ended up in jail when I was 19.
Wow.
And it was really fascinating because these were all strangers and people I didn't know, but I found, okay, I've got to fit in here. And so I was able to use the things my strengths that brought me, to that fork in the road, telling stories, being funny. And I actually made friends. And, there were some things that happened that I tried to make changes in the jail. And of course they wouldn't let me do that. And they were just annoyed by me. But there was this one time where I was convincing everyone we need to really stand up for ourselves. And because they were overcrowding and taking away our privileges, and they'd gotten mad at me and took away my magazines, my books, my paper.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy. And so we stood up and of course got punished for it. Sometimes speaking truth to power, you will have consequences.
Yes.
But we did it anyway. But the woman that I had become very close with was actually the leader of the scariest gang in the jail. It was good she was my friend.
Yes.
But she and I ended up in isolation together. And I was sitting there saying, ugh, I'm such a failure. I'm such a disaster. My life is worthless and everything I do doesn't work out. And she got up and she slammed me against the wall and said, you have no idea who you are. She says, you are so smart. You're strong. You care about people. You've got to get that in here because you have a responsibility to go out there and make a difference. She changed my life.
Yeah.
She helped me to see who I was, no matter what my circumstances were, and to have the courage aligned with my purpose to make a difference. So when I said that I jump over cliffs before I look down, it's because I know that we're in the direction I'm going. As long as I know it's for the good of helping others do what she did for me, to see my potential, to know who I am. So that's been my guiding light, going forward in this wonderful long life that I've led.
Oh, what an amazing story. And I really want to call it an origin story because it helped build everything that you have done up until today, in guiding and helping others. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
thank
you.
So,
which also shows that you have a lot of experience in this topic, how to manage the mind when emotions take the wheel. So where should we go first with this?
Well, that was actually my first book, and then I rewrote it. So what's out there now is a second edition because I've learned so much since then. But I started teaching coaching and emotional intelligence as a part of my business, and so I the whole idea that if we don't understand how our emotions impact us, then our emotions run our lives, and we don't. And they are there. I think the biggest distinction for people is to understand you can't get rid of them. You will, you react before you think. Yeah. That was a big aha because we were always taught, change your thoughts, change your behavior, but that's not true. Yeah. You have to recognize, oh, look, I'm scared. And what am I going to do instead? or I'm angry. So what is it that I need to ask for? To know that we are reactive humans, but then we have choice after that. So I started teaching that and knew I had to have a product.
There you go.
And wrote the first version, the second version, then published the third, and now it's in the second edition. That I think that's the most critical piece, is understanding the impact, not just that the impact of the emotions have on our thinking, but how to actually use our emotions to move forward. So that day that woman told me who I was, one of the greatest things was that she made me realize how many people gave me the message that, oh, you've ruined your life, you're worthless, and it made me angry.
Yes.
And you know what? Even anger can be a force for good if you have purpose. It's like that power of I'll show them.
Yes.
But then I shifted to the difference I want to make and not hold on to the anger and the resentment that stops me from moving forward. So it's been a quest. And even in all my coaching, I always integrate the power of emotions, of understanding our own and then using them to go forward.
Yeah. Well, so self-awareness is the first step. And really, I hear the first step in that is understanding that you have emotions. Because some people are like,
yes,
I don't have those. So could you give some tips maybe for being more self-aware of our emotions? And then we can get into how can we best use them?
Well, the thing is that we're all taught, and I've taught in 43 countries, so I know that this is like universal, that, emotions are bad and you need to not show them, both men and women, for different reasons. And when we stuff our emotions, they're still in our body. And one of the things they've been able to do in the last 20 years is actually measure the electromagnetic energy of our emotions. So even when we stuff them, they're still there. And people, it's like when you walk in a room and everybody's angry with each other, you feel it. The denseness of anger. Anger and fear is very dense energy, whereas gratitude, happiness, laughter is very light.
Yeah.
So we're putting out energy all the time with our emotions, but they're also there impacting our thinking. And if we stuff them, what happens? We get sick. It affects all systems in our body. And then we explode, and usually at the people we love.
Yeah.
So stuffing doesn't help. It really is. The self-awareness is recognizing I have a point of tension in my body. I don't need to know if it's anger or irritation, impatience. I don't need to actually know in the moment the difference. I can think about it later. But to breathe in and to release the tension, which allows the blood flow back into my brain, that allows me to choose how I want to feel instead, not think, even though I'm thinking about the feeling. I have to replace the emotion, not stuff it. I have to choose to be grateful for being here in this moment, to be curious. And it's what I mostly teach coaches, to be courageous and curious. And I have to feel it so I can make the shift, which changes my presence as well as changes my thinking. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Emotions are contagious, right? And they can definitely color, our mood can color how we perceive things around us.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that you, what would be the term? You made your anger and you turned it effective. I guess for lack of a better term. Any suggestions for when we do have negative emotions? And I know we can go to gratitude, but how can we use those to empower ourselves?
Yeah. Well, first off, quit calling them negative.
The heavy ones.
That's another belief system that they're bad. Fear actually protects us, and anger can activate courage. So it's how we use them. And I say that because the moment we get mad at ourselves for feeling something or think we're bad for feeling something, then it impacts our ability to use it.
Yes.
So what I recognized was how to use anger as a force for good. And actually, I have a TED Talk on that. If you go out there, and I tell my story and how it's okay to be angry, but then you have to know, what is it I want to change? What is it I want to impact that I'm angry about? And even if I will not see this change in the next few years, or sometimes even in my lifetime, that I know that that if I can use my anger to launch myself to do what I feel is important, then I shift it to passion. And that passion is actually a good energy.
Yeah.
I think it was it one of the feminists, I think it was Susan B. Anthony, or one of them, never saw women get the right to vote, but she knew that she was making a difference.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop her, that it may not happen in her lifetime, Yeah. And so, and we cannot give up hope, because the opposite of hope is despair.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, even if there's roadblocks and things in our way, like me being told I hit the glass ceiling, it's like, okay, fine. I'll go find challenges elsewhere. Thank you.
I'll go bust through the glass ceiling somewhere else.
Yeah. Create my own.
Yeah.
That, what can I use this powerful energy of anger to help me make a difference and create in the world? So if I can shift it to that, then it becomes powerful instead of hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to use anger to clean the house.
Yeah,
think about
it. If it was release, great. Thank you, anger. I now have a clean house.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. So I know we're told we need to experience or sit with our emotions. Can you say a little bit more to the folks who are like, what does that mean? How do I do that?
Well, again, not making them bad and making them go away, that recognition, there's a point of tension in my body. I might know, what I teach people is to work on recognizing when they feel fear. What does it feel like? For me, it's in my chest. Some people feel it in the back of their neck or their shoulders, or their gut.
Yeah.
And where do you feel anger? For me, it's a punch in the stomach, but I've had people say their ears get red. So over time you can recognize which emotion it is, but just to even know, look, I have a tension in my body, or I'm heating up, or, is to say, oh, look at that. Isn't that interesting? When we get to know what it is, it's easier to say, what is it I want to feel instead at this moment? And you can feel both. Courage is acting in the face of fear. It's not the release of fear. And so to say, thank you, brain, for trying to protect me, but I'm going to go do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because we have choice. And to know that you do have free will if you recognize the emotion that you had and then choose to feel different. If you don't recognize it and be with it like it's okay, then it will choose for you and you lose your free will. Your emotions then dictate your actions and what you will say. And so you have a choice. You can either activate your free will by recognizing and then choosing, or you become the victim of your brain if you don't.
Yeah. What is that? Oh gosh, you remind me of that our brain or our mind should be our servant, not our master, or something like that.
Yeah.
The quote.
I think that was Einstein.
Somewhat, yeah. Oh wow. Now, I know people are going to want to learn more. Can you share a little bit about your other books as well as your products, other products or services?
Yeah. Well, I have, Outsmart Your Brain is out there, but I told you I did my doctorate on smart, strong women in the workplace, and that was actually published in a book with lots of exercises called Wander Woman, not Wonder, Wander, because we wander, we zigzag, and then after that, getting into coaching and seeing what was missing, I wrote the book, The Discomfort Zone, How to Turn Difficult Conversations into Breakthroughs. Mm-hmm. And that's for everyone. Mm-hmm. And then my last book is Coach the Person, and it's really a coaching book. And I'm working on a new book that goes even deeper into how can we use, even a coaching approach. You don't have to be a certified coach, but how can you use a coaching approach to your conversations to help move it forward?
Nice.
So that's my focus. And you can find all my books. My website is covisioning.com. And all my books are there. I teach coaching more than I provide it. So I don't do a lot of individual coaching, except when a company hires me to do some work for them. And it's usually follow-up coaching. But I teach in coaching schools around the world and work with coaches. And my coaching.com, my breakthrough coaching program, there's an online program that people can access, and so they can do their work anytime, and then you get access to me for Q&As every month and coaching demos and all my tips and tools and blog posts. And
wow.
So I would say also the coaching.com, look up breakthrough coaching there, look into that as well as my website.
Awesome. And you do speaking as well?
I do a lot of speaking. I do training, and it's like it comes in spurts. I recently have just done a couple of keynotes. It's coming back. A lot of that went away with the pandemic, but people are now asking me back, not just online but live, which is really nice.
Yeah, nice.
So I speak for leadership conferences, for women's conferences, for coaching conferences. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're at that point. Your final piece of advice for our listeners.
Well, it comes back to like your quote about the servant and the master. It's like you can either be the victim of your brain or the master of your destiny with your knowledge of your emotions and your brain. So accept your emotional being because you're human. All humans are. We always say that, we want our robots to have emotions, but we want our humans to be robots. You're not a robot. Just say, oh, that's fascinating. I'm having an emotion. Now what will I do next?
Nice. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today, Marcia.
Sure. Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about Marcia, visit her website at covisioning.com.
Interested in expanding your employee development program? Visit ChristinaEanes.com to look at the many workshops Christina has available for you.